We're back. This is a members-only interview with Jimmy Church. And Jimmy, welcome back.
Members only. I've got my members only jacket in the closet.
That's right, man.
Oh, man, I need to bust that out. I got a gray one. What color was yours, Richard?
I never was a member of anything. I joined a fraternity in my freshman year in college.
You had a members only jacket. Don't even tell me that you didn't wear a members only jacket.
I honestly, I didn't really have much of a social life.
You were straight goober? Were you straight goober?
I don't even know what that means.
See, you were. See, that's the.
I spent my entire decade of my 20s in the basement of a library in the University of Rochester called Rush Reed's Library, and going through one dusty book after another. That's how I spent the whole decade.
Yeah, you wouldn't be allowed in the library if you were wearing a members only jacket.
That wasn't that cool.
Yeah. I know,
look, right? But we were just talking. I was actually asking you, and I want to get you on the record here. What we're doing right now, this is an interview only for members of my website, Richard Dolan Members. So I'm recording this, and there's a very good chance that I will upload this to YouTube as an unlisted video, so it will not be searchable to ordinary people through YouTube, and it will not be available that way. So it will only be. And what I'm afraid that you're implying is that YouTube is frowning on this type of activity, and they may find me in violation of some kind of policy. Is that what you're saying, or
yes,
believe?
I did an experiment a couple of years ago on hidden videos, and I was curious.
So is an unlisted video the same as a hidden video?
I had about 100 shows that were hidden. Okay. But this is what was interesting about it. On the shows that, this was the experiment. I had an intro of the show, also Sprach Zarathustra, right? 2001: A Space Odyssey, the theme.
Right.
And I ran two different versions of the show on YouTube. I would cut out also Sprach Zarathustra from the beginning because I didn't own the rights. Plus, it was also very long. It ran for like 2-3 minutes. Yeah. So I cut it out, right? Mm-hmm. And then one day I forgot, and I posted the video with the song on it. Okay. I immediately got flagged by a German publishing company, and they were now monetizing my video. Fine, that's my mistake, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's interesting. Okay, it's not there. What if I did it hidden? Right?
When you say hidden, you mean unlisted?
Unlisted.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I unlisted the video, and they still monetized it. The monetization didn't go away. So then I posted for about a year.
Well, that kind of makes sense, though, because if it's unlisted, it's still going to an audience, just a smaller audience. So the monetization would be less.
Right. Now, so then I posted a series of these videos, all hidden, unlisted, hidden on YouTube. All of them, and each one of these videos had one view. Mine. Okay. Right? One view. They were hidden. One view. Every single one of those got tagged with content ID from that publishing company. Now, the first video that I posted, that was public, then went unlisted, right? The content ID hit it when it was public. Mm-hmm. So now I'm posting as a hidden unlisted video, right? With no views. Still got hit with content ID.
Well, now in this case, though, you're actually posting something that was copyrighted by somebody else. But what if you're creating your own content and you're simply not allowing it to go out on YouTube, and you're just having it go to a select number of people, which is what I do on a regular basis?
Right. And that's what I did. And I thought I was safe.
Right, you're creating all of your own content, just as
And
I.
that's right. That's right. And I thought I was safe. And according to YouTube, my content, most of my content was not my own.
Yeah, that's
So
unbelievable.
yeah, and without any explanation, when our attorneys got involved, I said to them, I said, okay, ask them specifically what the issues are, so we can go back and let's open some dialogue, and we'll tell them that we'll go back and fix it. That we're sorry, we'll never do it again, but please tell us specifically what you're talking about. Zero response.
It is
They didn't
serious.
tell us anything. They didn't tell us anything. They
Well,
just
we
gave
hit the whole YouTube thing very, very well in the first half of this discussion. And anyone who's listening, I would just encourage them to go check out the first hour of Jimmy and I. And honestly, you have a lot to say about YouTube, and I was very glad to have the chance to talk with you about it. I wonder if I can get you to switch gears a little bit. There's two
Let's
things
go.
I would like to talk with you. All right. So one was actually a really excellent idea by Tracy, who just said you should ask Jimmy to talk about some of the coolest interviews he's done over the last whatever period of time that really kind of blew you away or changed you in some way, or that you would like people to know about. But before we do that, may I ask you, this is only going to a limited audience, and we don't even have to talk a lot about this, but we were on the phone earlier today, and I was saying I knew about Jay Widener's interviews about Corey Good. He had them with what was her? Oh, Groovy Bean is her name, and I think they've done 4 now. So I'm just like deep into the first one. I'm just playing catch up. You have watched nearly all of them, all but one, I think, or you're pretty up to date on this. This is going to be something big, yes or no, in your opinion?
Well, be careful if you are out there doing something without a moral compass. You will get caught. And that is a fact. That's the advice I give to my kids, right? You will get caught. I will catch you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will catch you. And in this case, I am anxiously waiting for the dust to settle, the smoke to clear, to see the reaction from not only the UFO community, but quite possibly authorities and the law, and others out there that are outside of the UFO community that may stumble upon this video series. And that's it. I didn't know about what was actually going on until Kelly Farmer did her whistleblower thing. And when she did that, I think all of us opened up our eyes and went, okay, well, now we know what has been causing this disruption inside of the UFO community. It wasn't the UFO community. It was a very concerted effort, concentrated effort from a very select group of people around the whole Sphere Being Alliance and the
Right.
Blue Chickens. That being said, I have chosen to sit back and observe instead of to inject my opinions or my thoughts or report on it right now, because I think that it is information that is very sensitive, and it involves not only Groovy Bean but a whole list of people, including myself and including my wife. You were part of this as well, and the list of people and organizations that have been attacked is quite long, and it's only coming from one source and one person reaching back out. And I knew that, Richard, I'm going to be very straight here.
Mhm.
I knew that somebody was going to take this and run with it. I do know that it's very low hanging fruit. All of this dangerous material and acts and actions is very low hanging fruit. It's all out there. It just took a few courageous people to go, okay, enough is enough, and we're going to start talking about it. And that's it. And here we go. I think this is the first wave. Or this is actually the second wave. Kelly Farmer being the first one.
Right, right.
And let's see.
Well, I'm waiting. I mean, Jay's first video that he did with Groovy Bean, I think, has like 11,000 views. It's like it's decent, but it's not amazing. But what he said, I've been taking notes, and this is, he accuses Corey Good of lifting his material, and that David Wilcock knew all about it. Jay said David was either the most naive person ever, or he said something else, and he said, I'm not saying what. Talked about egregious things that both of them did. He took his own blame for coaching Corey Good, Jay did, for telling him, now you have to be humble and you have to come across like this, and you can't. So he actually said he felt bad about creating the Corey Good thing because he believed. He said he believed. And then he repeated something that not Jason Rice. Who's the other whistleblower who told him that Emery Smith? He said Emery Smith told Jay and several other people at Gaia, according to Jay, that David Wilcock told Emery that he and Corey had been making this all up for at least a year to year and a half. This is in late 2018. So, in other words, this is third hand, but nonetheless, these statements are really big. I just wonder how far they're going to go. But I think the Corey Good ship is burning.
Yeah, the UFO community, Richard, and you've been through some pretty crazy situations over the years, and yes, some of them you and I have rode through together. But this community has developed a way to police itself. And that is something that if you are going to, and I don't care who you are, but if you're going to make a name for yourself in this community, you have to be prepared to be looked at critically by some very, very smart people.
That's right.
That are tired of fakery. And when we go back and we look at the different events in the past, you look at what happened with William Moore. That's one example. Look at the autopsy video, the Nazca mummies, the Roswell mummy. You remember that all too well.
Yes, I do.
We'll go back and go back to cases like Billy Meyer, where they have been fully investigated by the videos recently from ATIP and how those were handled and published and released, and the intelligence end of the UFO community is going to go and fully investigate the statements made about and around each one of these incidents, and whether it's images in the case of the Roswell mummy, when it came out, how many different groups were independently analyzing those photographs when none of the analysis apparently was done beforehand, or if it was ignored, and it took minutes, hours, if not minutes, to fully investigate that situation. Well,
it actually took a few days, but your point is a good one. And it was
blatantly quick, right? Well, this is what the UFO community does. And once they get on your trail, and the hound dog, right? The hound dog on your trail, bloodhounds, you better have your ducks in a row. And in this case, like I said, for this community, it's low-hanging fruit, where there's so much of it that is part of the public record, and it's going to come out. There are too many players involved in this that were part of the inside, that are now on the outside sharing their information, and Jay Widener is one of them. I mean, he was right in the middle of it.
That's right.
And it is a situation that is going to expose itself, and the UFO community will drop the gavel and make a determination, and then we move on.
You have told me, which I haven't gotten to, episode 3. You said, Richard, you're going to be you're going to get very annoyed or upset over episode 3. So I have no doubt this is over. I just jumped ahead to the summary, and this is how the whole targeting of opponents of Corey Good went about.
Yeah, and so and I realize that it's about Groovy Bean, but at the same time, you and I were targeted as well.
We sure were, absolutely.
And when we were seeing this stuff happen, and you see it popping up in social media and these websites that were created and all of these groups and everything, I'm like, I haven't done anything. Richard hasn't done it. Nobody's done anything here. Nobody did anything. And if you are going to be part of this UFO community, you have to be prepared for criticism, because people are going to have their own opinions. Nobody in the UFO community agrees with each other. We never have. We never have.
You've got to have a thick skin and not take things personally, for sure.
You have to, because okay, it's very simple. Right. When you look at, we talked about Stanton Friedman, who just passed the other day, one of the great researchers, of all time. Period. There's no doubt. Right. But look at something specific, like the way that he treated the Bob Lazar case. Bob Lazar has got a lot of supporters out there. Bob also faced a wrath, coming at him from Stanton and others coming at him. Bob didn't dox anybody, right? He didn't fight or argue, or you have to be able to deal with it. Ignore it. People are going to have their opinions, and you're not going to change them. And it's really the bottom line here. And unfortunately, those that are around Corey listened to him apparently, and took it upon their own to go out and viciously attack members of the UFO community. And the list is long. It is long, and for no reason other than they didn't agree with somebody, in this case Corey Good. It's just like that. We don't have the UFO community, Richard, is like, it's the barber shop. Okay, it's the barber shop. You should be able to say whatever you want. That's it. And if you can't have freedom of thought here and share your ideas and your criticisms and your experiences, then you can't do it anywhere. And that's the one thing that I love about the UFO community. My first MUFON meeting, let me tell you about this.
Sure.
My first MUFON meeting here in Los Angeles, I show up, this is, 10, 15 years ago. And I show up, and I've got a UFO video collection back at my house that I don't show anybody. It's hidden. It's my stash in the closet, right? I don't talk to my friends or neighbors or coworkers about UFOs. I got my books and I got all my stuff, and I'm on the internet. And I show up at a MUFON meeting where everybody's talking about, listening to a conversation about abductions to my left, and somebody to the right just saw something that night, and this other conversation. I'm like, wow, I'm home. This is great. I can talk about whatever I want, and people are going to listen. Oh, this is amazing. And that's what the UFO community is. Go to a conference, and where anybody's going to come up and talk to you about whatever. If you are going to be a member of this community and start to attack and censor and tell people what they can and cannot say, there's no place for you in this community. There's none. You're an outsider. And that's what we're dealing with here. You mentioned Jason Rice. Since this is a hidden video, I'll say this on the subject.
Mhm.
Jason Rice was a guest on Fade to Black. And at that time, he was the new whistleblower and everybody wanted to hear from him.
Right.
And I thought, okay, all right, I'll have Jason on the show. And I did. I wanted to ask him questions. I thought it would be a great conversation. He comes on the show. We have a great show. The show ends. The next day, he posts on Twitter a letter from Corey Good's attorney censoring him, telling him that he could not go on Fade to Black or any other broadcast or tape and use these words. And he had a big long list of words and said that you cannot do this. It was sent to Jason Rice an hour before his appearance on Fade to Black the day before. Jason Rice comes on the show. I don't know about this letter.
Right.
He comes on the show, does a great interview. I got to tell you, what was really on his mind was that letter. And I didn't know about it. And he did a great interview. The next day, when I saw this letter, I was outraged. You cannot censor. You cannot attempt to shut somebody down. You cannot tell somebody they cannot go on a show because you want to control the narrative and what they are saying and speaking. And sending somebody a cease and desist letter before their appearance, who do you think you are?
What's very interesting is that Jay Widener stated that Corey and David both considered Jason Rice like a monster that had to be fought tooth and nail when he actually started to become a name. They actually saw him as the enemy.
Well, what is surprising about that for me, and certainly that is part of it, but what is more surprising is that all Jason was doing was supporting what Corey has been saying. And shouldn't Corey embrace somebody coming forward? Shouldn't Corey embrace somebody like Emery Smith? Shouldn't Corey or any other Randy Kramer's been talking about this way before Corey Good ever, came on the scene. And you should appreciate somebody like Jason coming forward and stating his experiences.
I wasn't expecting to ask you this, but well, finish your point, but I'd like to know your assessment of Jason Rice because you did have a positive interview with him, and I'm just curious. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, so by sending out that letter, that cease and desist letter, to me, it just stated everything, and his position with the media and Fade to Black, and I had to bring it up, and I brought it up on the show. And that's exactly how I felt. It was like, I think for all of us, it was an eye-opening thing to see. You can't censor anybody in the community. As far as Jason goes,
yeah.
When you asked me earlier about some of the fascinating interviews that we've done on Fade to Black.
Yeah.
And if I go back and think about some of the amazing shows like with Ron Felber, the Mojave Incident. It's a great book, but we brought on this couple. They were the Hesses, and they told us about this experience where they went out to the Mojave Desert. They were on vacation. It was like July 4th weekend or something, and it was an abduction experience. And this craft comes down into the desert and abducted. And what they went through and the trauma, and they packed up, moved to Utah. Ron came out with a book with different names in it. Later, the book was released with their actual names, and they came out and went public on the show. Now, going back to Jason Rice, when you have a show like that, with the Hesses, a pretty incredible book. It should be a movie. Pretty incredible story. but it's not my job to be judge and jury on their experience. And it's the same thing with Jason Rice. It's not my job to be judge and jury. It's my job to ask the right questions
That's
and
right.
engage in a conversation on stuff that I want to hear. It's
Mm-hmm.
up to the audience to develop an opinion or to resonate or not, and then we move on to the next show. And it could contradict Jason, right? The very next night,
Absolutely.
it could be a totally different experience. And then staying on that same thought, Barry Littleton is somebody else that I met and I listened to him speak, and I brought him on. He's been on the show a few times, and he's black, right, from the Midwest. Was one of the most amazing abduction contact stories of a lifetime of contact that goes back to when he was a little kid, and it continues through this day. And he's been on craft. He's propulsion systems, and he's been given scientific data and incredible. But somebody that most people have never heard from.
What makes him so powerful in your opinion then? Because he's obviously someone that you think has some credibility. Why would that be?
His laughter, his openness. He is so grounded and such a positive individual that has been through. And quite frankly, if you're black and you're part of the black community, UFOs are not part of your culture, man. It's not something
if you're black in the American Midwest, you're part of a very small community.
Yeah. And so for him to choose to go public about it, yeah, absolutely. And fascinating. And all of your listeners that are listening to this now, Barry Littleton is somebody that you should go and check out. The Ron Felber Mojave incident shows. I did I think he was on Coast to Coast once or twice with me too as well. And the book is amazing, and most people don't know about it. And I looked back.
You know the name of that book? I'm going to look this up myself.
Yeah, the Mojave Incident.
Okay.
It's an incredible book. Incredible book.
Wow.
Now, and I'll give you another hot tip. Isaac Arthur. Isaac Arthur is a physicist, and he is somebody that I stumbled upon when he first started. He's a YouTuber, and first started his channel when he had no subscribers, and I found like his first video or his second video, and his as a physicist and as a scientist, he approaches ET, intelligent life, the Fermi paradox, Dyson spheres, faster than light travel, the industrialization of the Milky Way and the universe, and travel and interstellar trade, spaceships, different types of craft.
So these are theoretical exercises he does, or is he doing some kind of research, or what?
Exactly. Remember, he's a physicist, so
Right.
his knowledge of not only the sciences but how to approach all of this is how he looks at it. So he comes at it completely from a pragmatic black and white background. It's a fascinating challenge. One of the most brilliant minds out there. But here's
what's his take on UFO evidence?
Well, okay. Well, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Here's the twist with Isaac, and this is something that I'm sure I'm about to teach you something that you didn't know, which is great. I get to teach Richard Dolan something, which is with the gaming community and the science fiction writer community, the authors out there, is probably 1,000 times as large as the UFO community. And the two barely overlap. And what I'm getting to is, if you think about the gamer community out there, that is, if just think about the size of that. And we were talking about YouTube earlier, the YouTube and gaming, that's where the money is for YouTube. That's where, these gamers channels with 10 million subscribers, all watching video clips of them playing games, where the technology and what is written into a game for interstellar travel, for UFOs, faster than light, visiting planets, populating galaxies, traveling, how all of that is dealt with, the logistics, the fuel, the arms, the laser technology, of course, the engines, the propulsion systems, the amount of fuel, all of this that takes place inside of a game has to be built. So, think about this for a second. There are scientists and physicists on staff that write all of this information that goes into these very complex video games. Isaac Arthur is one of them. And when he exposed me to this, on the amount of depth and thought that goes into gaming, and how they have to consider faster than light travel, how they have to consider propulsion systems, how a ship has to break. If a ship is coming at our solar system at the speed of light,
right?
To get down to a speed to enter our solar system and approach Earth, it takes 12 years to slow down in real time. To put on the brake.
They need that information to make it realistic in a video game that's going to make a lot of money.
And these are aspects of the UFO community that are never discussed, and we don't. So Isaac Arthur is somebody else that not only is he a fascinating guest, but for all of you and yourself included, his YouTube channel is called Future Science, Isaac Arthur. And he analyzes the Fermi paradox in a series of videos, where he breaks it down. And if you don't, Richard, and I know how you think and how you work, if you don't sit and listen to those videos and watch the presentation 50 times and take notes, there's something wrong, because that's how amazing it is. And he's one of these minds. So back to your his conclusions are that his conclusions are there has to be millions, if not billions, of intelligent civilizations out there spanning the universe that are populating their own galaxies, that grow and outdo the use of their home planet, and they are now taking over everything and populating artificial planets, literally artificial starships that are built because they don't live on the planet anymore. Maybe the star has died, right? Well, anyway, he gets into it in a very complex a scientific viewpoint. But what's most important here is that he is wondering about our own Milky Way, and we should start to see planets and stars start to disappear on our own Milky Way because they were surrounded by a Dyson sphere, or they're being overtaken, and we should start to see sooner or later the evidence of a takeover of the Milky Way, from different factions that are trading and communicating with each other. There's that part of it. And the other thing that he's been driving home, and I tend to agree with him on this, is that once the communication is made, like direct, it's one thing to have probes that are here or single ships by the thousands, right? But I'm talking about the arrival of a 200-mile long, interstellar craft, right?
Okay.
For that to happen, we have to be interesting. What he is saying is this: is that Earth is not unique. We think it's unique because that's our mindset, that we're the only ones. He's saying that there is probably 10, 20, 30 billion Earth-like planets in the Milky Way that are a lot nicer than ours. More water, bigger, no population, that they can go and hang out at, all the resources. Earth is just another one of billions.
I like Earth. That hurts my feelings.
Well, and if you look at it like that, what he is saying,
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. It just makes a lot of sense. We think it's unique. We think, well, as it turns out, there's 500 billion stars in our Milky Way, and each one of them has
a looking at it. It's all about supply and demand. So if there's a lot of demand, let's see, if there's a lot of supply, I guess is what he's saying.
Right.
What if there's a lot of demand as well? So in other words, what if it's not just 1 or 2 or 10 spacefaring civilizations, but what if it's thousands or millions?
That's what he's saying. But that's what he's saying. What do you say?
I think the odds would be high then that one of them would traipse upon us.
Sure. And this is what he is suggesting. If what we lack, this is what we lack, is we lack true interstellar travel and trade. Okay. And so at their level, they are interacting with planets that have something to offer: interstellar travel and trade and communication. We haven't gotten there yet. So they're visiting those planets that have all of that are like Earth, that are probably bigger, has more water, has something to offer, interstellar trade. They can vacation there. And all of the things that we would find appealing about, say, Las Vegas or New York City or Paris, but on a galactic level. And we don't.
What could we offer to what is it, like a level 2 or level 3 civilization, right?
Right.
What would we trade them that would be of monetary value to them or some kind of value to them?
Yeah.
Energy. We don't produce enough energy.
No, I think it would be something much cooler than that. Spices, plants, animals.
Yes, unique genetic combinations.
Something unique. I mean, what would you want? What would you want from the constellation Pegasus? Would you want gold? We have gold. Would you want diamonds? We have diamonds. How about some Pegasus spice for your pasta? That's what you would want. Wouldn't you want some Pegasus leather shoes? Right? Do you understand?
I don't know. I don't really know what they trade or what they do. It's a very interesting thing to think about.
What would be appealing to us? We have everything else. We have all the hydrogen we can use, all the helium we can use. We have everything that we need here.
So this is Isaac Arthur. I will definitely find his YouTube channel very interesting. And it doesn't sound like he's going to do or say anything that will get him dinged off of YouTube. So he might be safe for a while. Unlike me.
I've watched him blow up. I started following him. I'm not kidding. He had like 5,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
He had like 3 or 4 videos up. I wrote him immediately. Him and I have talked about this on and off the air a few times. And he wrote me back. He's like, man, I'll come on your show anytime. And for some reason, it just didn't happen for a couple of years. But I've watched him go from 5,000 subs to, I think he's at 500,000, now. Wow. And he's turned into this rock star, and he's I've just watched him blossom. He's just a very, very talented guy.
I'm just Googling his name, and he is well, DuckDuckGo. I don't do Google, but I'm seeing his name. He's everywhere.
Yes. And I found him literally when I think his first video had like 3 still graphics in it. Now he's got a team of animators and the spaceships and the planets and alien life and the illustration and stuff that it's just absolutely incredible what he's turned into. It's so fun. He's incredible. He's absolutely a joy to listen to.
I see he was homeschooled. Yay.
And he lives in Ohio. He lives in Ohio. He's a great guy.
Good, very cool. All right, goody. So, Jimmy,
Yes.
You've given me the three guests that I was interested in that what Tracy wanted to know about. I thought it was a great question. I didn't really want to keep you a longer time than you need to stay.
Okay, then I'm going to continue for you. Since I'm the guest, I can do what I want.
I was just about to ask you if you wanted to go in a particular direction, so thank you for taking that.
I want to go in this direction for a second.
Yeah.
I want to go, obviously we've lost Jim Mars, we've lost John Anthony West, and now, Stanton Friedman. Okay, all right, I get all that.
Of those men were just first-rate researchers and human beings.
Totally sad, but I don't think it is as sad as John Burroughs. John Burroughs, when he posted a couple of months ago that he was leaving the UFO community and that he was done, and he stopped on KGRA. And with that, then Linda, who didn't have John Burroughs and what she was going to do, left a question to Mark. But John Burroughs, who has steadfastly stood on his own 2 feet and walked upright, fighting the good fight for 40 years, right? And for him to say, look, I've done everything that I can to move this thing forward. And I feel like I'm in the same position I was 40 years ago, fighting the man. And I was saddened by that news because John Burroughs was one of the names when somebody asked me, well, what's your favorite Fade to Black show? And I don't go with the normal. You know what? John Burroughs, when he was on Fade to Black, my hair would stand up on my arms and on the back of my neck, because here is somebody that literally was a witness to one of the most profound events in the history of this planet. Was a witness. Was a witness.
Very close, up close and personal witness.
Military style, man. Right?
Right.
And documented, investigated by the government, recorded, audio record how the things that happened at Rendlesham. Imagine if it would have been the same thing at Malmstrom, or the same thing at Roswell, or the same thing with Travis Walton or Betty and Barney Hill. Those things all happened at Rendlesham. Multiple witnesses in real time and audio recordings, and it was part of the modern era. And those interviews when I would listen to him answer my questions in such a way that he's just so important, and to have him back up and go, you know what, I've only got so many years. I'm paraphrasing here, but I need to hang out with my family now, and I need to go and live a life. I can't do this.
He's got a farewell letter. It's on Reddit.
Yes. Yep.
And it was just posted about a month ago.
It was about a month ago.
Very long.
Yep.
Very, very long.
It's very long. And he sent that to me. I woke up. It was one of those things. I woke up and I got this in my email from John, and he says, I'm posting this in a few minutes. So, and I read through that. I went, no. But that's it, and we, when we talk about the UFO question, UAP question, John is part of the UAP changeover. We talk about this and the frustration of all of us going down a specific, path of investigation, of research, and it just seems like things are about to click, and then nothing happens. And John did that because of his health and his retirement and his position in the military and his family and everything else. He doggedly did that and came up short, and he was frustrated. And that's part of this UFO community. It is something that we have been so close. Richard,
Yeah.
it is so important for when I say these things that people really understand and where I am coming from. I have seen and witnessed the craziest stuff imaginable. Imaginable.
Yeah.
Imaginable. So I know something is going on, right? And it just seems so frustrating. And to see John go through those same things.
And you can see in this letter, there's almost like a depressing element of it, like this, I give up and there's really nothing else for me to do here. And this sense that I don't think he believes it's going to go anywhere.
And he said, I'm leaving it to the kids.
Yeah.
I'm leaving it to you youngsters, I think we're in good hands, but I'm leaving it to you guys and good luck.
Yeah.
I want to share this it was about a year ago. Now, I've seen lots of stuff at night vision. You and I have done that together and things. And that's fun and that's great. And it's just amazing to go through, and especially when you have a group of people there and you can all jump up and down and yell and scream. It's fun. But I had a daytime UFO sighting last year that with witnesses.
Is this the one you told me about? You were out by, was it Mount Shasta?
Yeah, it was Mount Adams. It was the beer can. It was the beer can. Yeah, the beer can. And when this thing happened, now I'm not going to go through what happened. That's for another time. But when you see something like that in the middle of the day, which my guesstimates were this thing was probably 300, 400, 500 feet tall, maybe a couple hundred feet wide. And it was a cylinder, but it was going, it was vertical. It wasn't horizontal. It was vertical, and it's spinning, and it's going across the sky with the sun crystal clear in focus right there. And I'm looking at this thing. Now, that's when you need to pump the brakes. You got to pump the brakes on this truck and pull over to the side of the road and go, WTF. What is that? What that right there? That is not a blimp. That's not a balloon. That's not a rocket. That's not a plane. That's not a helicopter. That's not a triangle. That's not a flying saucer. That is not anything but a giant thing in the sky flying with no wings, nothing, in the middle of the day, 3:00 in the afternoon, perfectly in focus.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so that's the holy grail. I cannot believe I saw it. Now, plenty of Steve Murillo was there. We had Lucinda Morel, and there was another 20, 30 people that were standing around me. And we all saw it together. Thank God. Thank the Holy Lord, baby Jesus, that these witnesses were there. But it disappeared. It lasted for about 15 seconds in this broad blue sky in front of us. I thought it was going to last for hours, right? It was just there and moving across. It just phased out and disappeared.
That's what happens.
And that is when I sit here and talk about the UFO phenomenon or UAPs and the pursuit of trying to figure out what's going on, I'm not basing it on stuff I've seen on the internet or people that I've interviewed. I'm not basing it on any of that. Fade to black exists. This conversation between you and I exists because I am interested. I am trying to figure this out. I need to know what that was. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was ET, if it was government stuff. I don't know if it came out of a secret door in the back of the mountain. I don't know. And it just appeared, in the sky. I don't know. But I am going to pursue this. And John Burroughs was somebody that was doing the very same thing. And I don't want to back out and ride off into the sunset without getting the answers. I can't do that.
I can't either. Honestly, I've thought about this a lot, and there's just no way that I can see myself leaving or walking away from this subject and from this community, from so many people that I've come to know, including
Well,
yourself and many, many other wonderful people.
and I think it's so important to be able to be critical and to question um, uh, the criticisms that you and others and myself have received over the years. That I'm too critical. That it seems that you have to be all in or nothing. Well, I don't believe in every conspiracy. I don't believe in every story, and I certainly don't trust the man. But I try to, when I say trust the man, I mean, I don't trust the man. I have to, go squinty eyed on everything. I listen, I certainly listen, but I don't go all in. I just don't jump into the pool every single time. And when we're faced with these different situations right now, with the UFO community and the mass media and History Channel or To the Stars or forget about even To the Stars. It's across the board, all the way around, right? We have to remain critical. We have to remain objective, and we have to ask the questions. And that's my position. And because I ask questions, and sometimes I come off as a naysayer or a debunker, which I'm not, or a critic, which I am not. I am trying to, for the community, protect everybody. You can't go all in, man. You can't push your chips to the middle of the table. You just can't do that. We have to wait, and when things happen, then they happen, right? When something comes forward, then we can be happy. But until we reach those moments with anything, we just have to just stay back and enjoy the ride. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. I've given up on thinking I'm going to solve this. I've given up on thinking we're going to achieve every single thing we want, even as a society. If we make progress, I'll be very happy with that. But meanwhile, I study this and I stay in this field because I find it personally fascinating, and it prompts me to ask questions. And I think a lot of these are questions that other people are asking as well. And I enjoy investigating a really good mystery that is meaningful and has profound implications for ourselves as a species and for our civilization. And so for that reason, I like saying it. And I also, we're in a dramatic era. We're in a dramatic time.
You know who I quote the most? My favorite quote of every single Fade to Black episode, including the ones that you were on. The best quote came from Giorgio Tsoukalos. The best quote. The best quote. And this is what he said. He said, Jimmy, when it happens, when we have a full-on blown conversation with our ET brothers, we will find out that everyone has been wrong. That was like, dude, that is the heaviest, most accurate thing. And you just need to kind of, let that sink in for a minute. Let that sink in. Everything that we, where we think we're getting close,
we'll see. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I got to say this about Giorgio. I've had a little bit of alone time with him. Not a lot, but some over the years. And I got to say, A, he's a genuinely good guy. Like, he's a decent human being. B, he's a very thoughtful person. I don't know what people think of him, judging from Ancient Aliens, because that's all they really see. And he's become such a meme. He's so big. But he's a decent human being, and he's quite thoughtful.
He is so awake. He is so in touch. His concerns about our physical bodies and how we take care of ourselves, how we take care of this planet. And he is so awake, and it's incredible. None of that happens on Ancient Aliens, and he's such a private person that it's never out there in public.
I feel that he's very down to earth.
He's so. I've just man, and he's so private, but I'm just going to say it. He's just. He's very in touch. He is very intelligent, and the ancient alien things and his public persona is one thing, but who he truly is, he is one cool guy, and he's very aware, very cool guy, very cool.
I'm glad you said that. Next time we're going to see him in a couple of weeks. I'll see you when we're a contact in the desert, and I always have a nice interaction with him. Hopefully it'll be more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's so cool. So we'll see you there, man. Contacting the desert. Can you believe it? 2 weeks away, and the craziness starts. It's such a fun week.
I wrote a little private piece about it. I'm almost at the end of my rope with the kind of the over the top talk about ascension and some of these other topics that, I mean, I just ignore them most of the time, but I went into the website at Contact, and I just thought, this is just getting crazier every year. Honestly, it's almost at the point where I almost didn't want to go.
This is part of something that I was exposed to that I didn't quite expect. And I do a couple of other conferences each year that are outside of the UFO community, right? And I didn't.
You're doing Disclosure Fest, I believe.
I've done Disclosure Fest since the beginning. I've been the host of it, and it's great. It's amazing. And here you have a conference of 15,000, right? A big, ginormous event where you can walk around and talk to the people that are there. And because it's so big at 15,000, 14,000 of those 15,000 have never seen a UFO or have never listened to Coast to Coast. They've never watched Ancient Aliens. It's a mind-blowing thing. It's like crazy. I can walk around there and nobody knows who I am. I can just be myself, and somebody, hey, so what do you do? Well, I host Fade to Black. What's that? It's a show about UFOs. Oh, really? Okay, I've heard of those. Yeah. I also host Coast to Coast. What's Coast to Coast? Right?
You're not talking about Contact in the Desert. You're talking about Disclosure Fest or something?
Disclosure Fest.
And it seems nothing to do with UFOs whatsoever, but they call it Disclosure Fest. I didn't really know why.
Well, because it's about energy, free energy, solar power, cleaning up the beaches, pollution, the awakening of that, and the disclosure of all of this coming into awareness for the rest of the world. And so that's what Disclosure Fest is about. And it's an awakening and consciousness and all of that, all of these repressed and suppressed thoughts that are out there. So that's what they are doing. They are disclosing that. Disclosure Fest all year long, all over the country. They're out having events where they're planting trees in mass, feeding the homeless in mass, cleaning beaches in mass.
That's awesome. Actually,
they have these huge events.
I had this idea that they were basically doing galactic communication and ascension and downloads from ETs and things like that. But really?
No. Well, I mean, I suppose there are no.
Okay, good.
It's the exact
apprehension about Disclosure Fest.
It's so cool and it's so fun, and like I said,
that's Conscious Life Expo, and that's definitely Contact in the Desert and New Life Expo. So you get those elements there.
Yes, you do.
That's what I'm reacting against. And I'm sounding like a sourpuss.
Well, it's and for me,
do I need to move to LA? Is that what I need?
If you like tofu. Which I don't. I have to fight for my beef, but but that's what is fascinating for me is to be exposed into this. I never had crystals in my life. Right now, I've got crystals all over the place, and Oregon, and just things where I was never in touch with that part of me. About it was probably 2 years ago. Um, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but I had this crazy experience. I had never meditated before, and I wasn't meditating at this moment either. And I'm with a group of people and these singing bowls and this thing, and they're going through this ceremony, and I'm just like, whatever,
Hmm.
whatever. You guys, you awakening new agey flowers, whatever, crystals, do your thing, whatever.
Yes.
And I'm standing there, and I go, I close my eyes, right? And I'm listening to the singing bowls, and I went somewhere, right? Me,
Uh-huh.
I am talking about. I moments before I was like, man, this is a bunch of crap, man. I can't believe you guys are actually doing this. Do you know how ridiculous you look? Right? That was my frame of mind.
Yes.
15 seconds later, right? I'm at the edge of the universe, man. I don't know what happened.
So that took you
It's,
somewhere. You had an
it was
experience.
crazy. And I don't know how long it lasted. And I've never shared. I'm not going to say what happened or anything. It was a very personal thing. But um, um, I was told it was about 15 minutes. I don't know if it was, to me, if it was 10 seconds or if it was a week. I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
have any concept of that. But I know this, that when I came out of this thing, I anyway, I looked around and I didn't know where I was. And I'm standing with this group of people, and I'm like, who are, and I look over, Rita's standing next to me, and I don't recognize what's going on. And I literally leaned over, put my hands on my knees, and looked at the ground and closed my eyes like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, right? Trying to go back. Right. I was like, man,
Wow, Jimmy.
I gotta go back there. I gotta go back. And I couldn't. And I stood up and I couldn't walk my knees. And I was like, man. And I needed to go and like decompress. And it took me about a half an hour.
Well,
And
I was going to say, I agree. I practiced Kundalini yoga for a number of years, and I would love to get back to it. And I am a believer, like you, in the value of those types of meditations and the benefit that they can bring to us, including the kind of experience you're talking about. So I think
it's
that's actually
it
awesome. That's
scared
beautiful.
me. Scared me. It scared me. I like to be in control. And that was the other. I've never done it again. I doubt that I do, because I don't like. I I was in zero control of myself.
I've got to work out my attitude toward all of this because the whole ascension talk, I'm just going to tell you, really annoyed the hell out of me. Still does.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep. Yeah,
And
it's a dangerous zone
yeah,
for a lot of people to go into, because it's a borderline uh, cultish kind of.
yeah,
Cultish is the wrong word, but it's that the people that are attracted to this or are searching may have issues that they're trying to work through. That's part of it.
yeah.
That maybe they lack a group, or they need the group thing, and I understand that too, and friends, because it's a very warm, cool group to be around. There's that part of it, but
Right, right.
um, there's an emotional thing that is involved too, as well, and that's the part for me where you need to approach this with your eyes open, because you don't want to, just like anything else, you don't want to get opened up into something that you may not be able to turn around and get away from. And that's the part of it, because you don't know who you're dealing with, and you don't know who these guru type people may be, and that's the thing. And we're discussing a very sensitive issue for people out there that may not want to hear this kind of talk. But it's I've seen too many documentaries of different things over the years where it could be a very dangerous thing to get into. But the part when somebody says to me that they've been able to astral body project and they go into this thing and they go places, well, I experienced something that I can't explain. So I know that part of it's real. I just didn't like the lack of control. I got sucked into it, man. Sucked into it.
That is fascinating.
It was trippy. It was magnetic. It was imagine you're standing on the edge of a cliff and somebody pushes you from behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't float back up to your position. You're now free falling. It was like that. I couldn't. It wasn't in my control. I don't know any other way to put it. It was frightening. It was frightening. Interesting though.
Something I like about you is that when you have experiences, Jimmy, you're never afraid to talk about them, and you're never afraid to express your emotional reaction to them. And I just want you to know I appreciate that about you. I think a lot of listeners must appreciate that about you as well.
And like I said, I was just like, I want to use a bad word, but before this thing happened, I was literally in my mind talking smack. Right? I was talking smack. I was talking smack, man, and it was something very interesting to see. It was
provided a little bit of a corrective to my occasional dogmatism.
I know, right? Well, see, this is what happened to me without divulging anything else. Yeah. But it happened. It happened so quick. It happened. Imagine your eyes are closed, and then from left to right, in your eyes, left to right, this bright wave of pink. It was pink, like pink. This pink thing came in from my left and took over my left eyeball, right, and then came over and went into my right, and it was like an electric wave. And then that's it. That was it. I was in free fall. It was crazy, man. It was nuts, man. It was nuts. It was nuts. All right. Great conversation, Richard.
Jimmy.
Awesome. You know what's so much fun is that both on and off of the air, no matter what we are doing, we always manage to talk. And that's what's important. I think everybody should do more of this. They should talk. They should listen, and converse and share ideas. You don't have to agree, but you always will learn something. And I do that with you every time. Thank you so much.
Same here, Jimmy. Thank you so much. And I am absolutely certain that the members of this site will be very grateful for this particular conversation. It was great for me, and I think they'll enjoy it just as much.
Safe travels to you, Tracy, and we'll break bread in 2 weeks in Palm Springs.
That's it. Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.